Welcome everyone to the Constitution Annotated on Congress.gov webinar. My name is Barbara Bavis, and I am the Bibliographic and Research Instruction Librarian here at the Law Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. I'm also going to be your instructor today. I'm excited to bring you a webinar on the Congressional Research Service product that you can access from the site Congress.gov, the Constitution Annotated online. Congress.gov is presented by the Library of Congress using data from the Office of the Clerk of the U.S. House of Representatives, the Office of the Secretary of the Senate, the Government Publishing Office, the Congressional Budget Office, and the Library of Congress's Congressional Research Service, which is also known as CRS. If you're not familiar with CRS, the Congressional Research Service works exclusively for the United States Congress, providing policy and legal analysis to committees and members of both the House and Senate, regardless of party affiliation. As a legislative branch agency within the Library of Congress, CRS is a valued and respected resource on Capitol Hill. Today, we're going to explore the CRS product, Constitution of the United States Analysis and Interpretation, better known as the Constitution Annotated. And we're going to focus particularly on the Constitution Annotated online, which is available on Congress.gov. I want to go over a few technical notes as we start out in our presentation today. First, we ask that you submit your questions through the Q&A feature. To use this feature, click the Q&A button that's either going to be at the bottom or the top of your Zoom window, input your question, and click the send button. I plan to leave time at the end of this webinar to answer some of your questions, so please feel free to leave them there. If I don't get to them immediately, that doesn't mean that I haven't seen them. I just might not have time yet to answer them. If you're having any trouble with your computer audio, we suggest using the call-in feature in Zoom. To find this feature, look for audio setting at either the bottom or the top of your Zoom window. Click on audio setting and select switch to phone audio. I also want to let everyone know that this session is being recorded. So if you choose to participate, your comments or questions will be included in the recording as part of the record. But the great part of that is that after the webinar, we'll make the slides and a link to the recording of the webinar, assuming we have no technical difficulties, available via an email from the library. So you can expect that email within a couple days. I also want to let you know that you can, as we are going through these slides, use the Zoom feature in Zoom to get a better look at the slides as we go through. There should be a green menu bar at the top of your screen. And if you use the drop-down menu there, Zoom should be one of the options, and you can change your Zoom on the screen from there. All right, now let's really get started to talk about the Constitution Annotated online. The Constitution Annotated online website launched on Constitution Day, September 17th, 2019. This is an invaluable resource for researching United States constitutional law. It provides a summary of constitutional provisions and the leading U.S. Supreme Court decisions that interpret them. It's written in accessible language, so you don't have to be a lawyer to use it, and thus it makes constitutional law accessible to everyday people. The Constitution Annotated is a Senate document that's been published for over 100 years. The printed version is a massive volume, but the Congressional Research Service has worked to transition this document into the digital age by creating a site that makes this unique resource both searchable and browsable. They've also added valuable bonus content that we're going to discuss a little bit later in the webinar. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the background of the Constitution Annotated. The Constitution Annotated is the only comprehensive government-sanctioned record of the interpretations of the Constitution. As I mentioned earlier, it's maintained by CRS, a legislative branch agency within the Library of Congress, whose mission is to provide authoritative, objective, and nonpartisan information to Congress. The Constitution Annotated is Congress's source of a current and historically grounded understanding of our nation's founding document, and it's also available to the public. Congress has had a long-standing need to understand the Constitution in the context of current legal, political, and legislative events. We see this in Senate documents from the 1800s, which accumulated lists of Supreme Court cases interpreting the Constitution. More than 120 years after these first iterations, the Constitution Annotated is still in print and hardbound editions, which are printed every 10 years, with cumulative updates printed as supplement inserts every 2 years. The next edition is scheduled for 2022. However, as you can imagine, the hardbound volumes and even the 3,000-page PDF of the Constitution Annotated on the Government Publishing Office's GovInfo website were not enough to keep up with the fast-paced workflow of modern researchers. So as such, the Law Library and CRS spearheaded the modernization of the Constitution Annotated, creating the Constitution Annotated online website to deliver content faster and in a more accessible format. The Constitution Annotated online is completely searchable and is more dynamic than ever before, with updates going live as soon as within 24 hours of a change being made. This new resource not only modernizes the way we deliver the content, but allows us to enhance it. And I want to talk about a few of these enhancements just that you can see on the homepage. So let's dive into the homepage and see some of these examples. First, I want to talk about the first 5 buttons that you see at the top of your screen. These are meant to streamline your navigation of the website. It's Browse Annotations, U.S. Constitution, Resources, About, and Updates. I'm going to go into each one of these in just a moment. Next, a key feature of the new website is searchability. We have a global search bar that spans the header of every page. No matter where you are on the Constitution Annotated online page, you can easily conduct your searches. So if you've done a search and you're getting a little bit turned around, you want to start over, all you have to do is look at the top of your screen and see that search bar. Third, we have the featured carousel, which highlights timely topics and is updated periodically with information about updates and more. Scrolling down a bit, we see 3 modules, each housing different resources. Featured Issues, which is on the left-hand side, highlights topics of relevance to the Supreme Court's docket. These are mostly links to reports created by CRS on these topics. These CRS reports are available in a different section of the Congress.gov website on CRSreports.Congress.gov. Again, that's CRSreports.Congress.gov. But you'll be linked directly to those reports via these links under the Featured Issue module. Next, U.S. Constitution at the Library of Congress highlights the library's constitutional resources. These are links to LOC.gov, the Library of Congress's website, and law.gov, the Law Library of Congress's website. And then finally, Constitution Annotated Resources. This module highlights the web content that was created for the online edition specifically of the Constitution Annotated, or for existing content that was enhanced through the modernization. These are the resources that you would see if you clicked the resources link from the top of the page. We expect most people to access the content in 2 ways, either by the browse page navigation or by conducting searches. If you're interested in a specific article of or an amendment to the Constitution, you can select Browse Annotations at the top of the homepage. We'll discuss this feature a little bit later in more detail. But first, I want to turn to searching. As an example, I want to assume that I'm doing a research project on freedom of the press. I'm going to conduct a simple Boolean search, freedom and press. You can see that in the search bar. This means that both the keywords freedom and the keyword press must occur in any result returned. And also, I want you to note that the Boolean operator that we're using, and, is capitalized. Before we see the results of this search, however, I want to look to the Search Help button to the right of the global search box. And let me point that out using my Annotate. All right, search help right there. This search help button to the right of the global search box will give you more information about other search functions in the Constitution Annotated online. This is what the search help page looks like. The search help page will give you a list of search operators you can use on the Constitution Annotated online website, like Boolean operators, proximity operators, and wildcards. What I first want to point out here, and let me get my annotate tool out again, is I want to note particularly the phrase searching, as well as, and hopefully you can see this at the bottom of your screen, the proximity search. We're going to go a little bit in depth in just a moment on that proximity search, but I want you to note you can use that search setup to find essays within the Constitution Annotated online that contain both words within those quotation marks. All right. Additionally, you'll find information more toward the bottom of the screen about what resources are and aren't searched by using that global search box at the top of your screen. But let's do our search. So we have searched freedom and press in the global search box. This gives us 74 search results. Now we'll see the layout of the search results page. This is pretty much how your search results page is going to be laid out on the Constitution Annotated online page. Let's look at each of these components a little bit more closely. First, we have the essay title as a link, and that is introduced by a serial number that's unique to each essay. We also have breadcrumbs that will trace us back to the constitutional provision being annotated. So in this case, I know that this essay, Freedom of Speech, Historical Background, is included as part of the essay group in the First Amendment. Next, there is an essay excerpt containing the keywords, including footnote excerpts if those footnotes contain the keywords searched. So you'll see here, it has both a section of the essay and an example of the footnotes as well. And then you'll have a total hit count at the end of each entry, counting how many times each keyword appears. I also want to draw your attention, I'm going to get my annotate tool out again, to our facet menus on the left-hand side of the page. You can use these menus to narrow down your search results. I'm going to show you a little bit later in this presentation how to use some of those options. All right, so let's take a look at those facet menus. Each search results page will have facets on the left-hand side, including articles and amendments, topics and resources. Topics and resources. Clicking on these options narrows down the results. So you see here, I've narrowed down our results already. I selected First Amendment in the Articles and Amendments menu and Supreme Court under the Topics menu. This brings my results down to just 5. If none of the topics listed had been of interest to me, I could have clicked on Show More to reveal the additional topic facets. Notice that the topics are not in alphabetical order. Instead, you're shown the most relevant topics first, so the topics with the most hits. On top of the search results page, you'll see our keywords and the applied facets listed with X's next to each. Each X gives us the option to remove the keywords or facets and to expand our search results. So you see here we've narrowed down by the keywords freedom and press, the topic Supreme Court, and the Articles and Amendments First Amendment. If we click the X next to any of these, they would be taken out of our search and our search would be expanded. Finally, if you're happy with your search and you'd like quick access to it later, you can copy the search URL by clicking on the Copy Search button. And you'll see I've put a box around it here on your screen. This feature is particularly handy for those of you out there who are power searchers using complex Boolean searches that you may need to repeat or reference later. I just want to suggest don't forget to paste the copied search URL in a safe place. So be sure to paste it somewhere else, or else it'll be deleted once you paste or you copy something else. All right, so let's go back to our original search to see what happens when you choose one of your results. In this case, I've gone back to my search for freedom and press and have selected Article 1 from the Articles and Amendments menu. This first entry seems particularly interesting to me, so I'm going to click on that. Commerce among the several states. This is the annotation or essay page. At the very top, you'll notice a breadcrumb that traces the essay back to its place in the Browse page in the Constitution. All of these are clickable. So you'll see here, you can go back to see all the essays about Clause 3 of Section 8 of Article 1 of the Constitution. All the essays, and let me actually point this out, all the essays about just Section 8 of Article 1, or all the essays about Article 1. All right, so that takes you back to larger and larger chunks. Next, you'll see these arrows at the top of the screen. These arrows will allow you to be able to navigate to previous and subsequent essays in the Constitution annotated. By doing this, we are replicating the experience you'd have if you were reading the book or paging through the PDF on GovInfo. Next, the essay has a title and begins with the text of the constitutional provision being annotated. So in our case, to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. To the right, you can also see that links that guide you to other content that may be relevant. I'm actually going to try the commerce topic that you see listed here. And by clicking that link, you'll be navigated to a pre-populated search that's already filtered for the commerce topic. And you'll see the commerce topic listed under your refined by list. But let's go and hit the back button and go back to the essay page and take a closer look at the essay itself. If you look at the essay text, you'll notice we have hyperlinked footnote numbers. Oh, sorry. There we go. Each essay is thoroughly cited, so you might see footnotes numbering in the hundreds in just one essay. Don't let that throw you off. Clicking on a footnote number takes you to the footnotes section at the very bottom of the essay. So here's an example of the footnotes from this essay. If you're ready to go back to the part of the essay you were reading, all you have to do is click on the caret symbol at the beginning of the footnote. These hyperlinked citations are one of the ways that the online Constitution Annotated enhances our content. Most of the citations in the Constitution Annotated are to Supreme Court cases, and most of them contain embedded hyperlinks to the case. Over 90% of citations link to the Law Library's U.S. Reports collection. We already see several examples of this in this essay. If we were to click on any of these linked citations, we'd be taken directly to a PDF of the pages as they appear in the United States reports. For example, let's click on Gibbons v. Ogden. As you can see here, the link opens to a PDF of the case, which you can scroll through page by page. Note that you can also do keyword searches within the Law Library's US Reports PDFs collection, this is from. Simply hold down the Control or Command key, depending if you have a PC or an Apple device, and click the F key. Then in the Find box that appears, simply type the keywords of interest. Now, just a warning, if you do use that option, that Find option, the keyword search will not take line breaks into account. So we suggest trying small chunks of keywords or a phrase first, 1 to 3 words. For slip opinions that are not all in the Law Library's US Reports collection, we link to the Supreme Court's website where PDFs of slip opinions are located. For those of you wondering what I'm referring to when I say slip opinion, it's defined by the Supreme Court as the first version of the court's opinions posted on its website. They are posted on the website within minutes after the opinions are issued, and they'll remain posted there until the opinions for the entire term are published in the bound volumes of the United States Reports. For other case citations that are not slip opinions or are not included in the Law Library's US Reports collection, we link to the Harvard Law School's Case Law Access Project, or CAP for short. CAP's goal is to make all published case law freely available at no cost. For more information about CAP or other linked resources, click the About link at the top of every Constitution Annotated online page and scroll down to the Case Law Hyperlinks entry. We'll return to the About page a little bit later in this presentation to talk about some of the other features here. Next, though, I want to look to another link at the top right-hand side of the page, Browse Annotations. The Browse Annotations landing page serves as an outline for the US Constitution and mirrors the structure of the Constitution Annotated. The page has links to introductory essays. Let me annotate this. All right, we have introductory essays here. And then essays about the preamble to the Constitution. And then finally, articles and amendments. So here's articles and here is amendments. Let's see what happens when you click on one of these links. So I'm going to scroll down and look at the 14th Amendment. So here we see the structure of the Constitution with section and clause groupings, along with the essays written about each provision. And as you'll note, the structure is hierarchical. So we divide amendments into sections, which you can see on the right-hand side of the page, then into clauses, and then linking to essays regarding those clauses. The hierarchy demonstrated here helps users who aren't as familiar with constitutional law, but have a topic in mind that they're interested in. Advanced researchers might find it more expedient to use, again, the Control F find method that I talked about earlier to browse within a page for the topics they're interested in. Before moving on to other sections of the website, though, I'd like to kind of go live and do a sample exercise. In this exercise, I'm going to assume that I have been asked to do some research regarding the constitutional prohibition on the infliction of cruel and unusual punishments. We're also going to assume that I don't know in what article or amendment this prohibition is located or how the Supreme Court has ruled on this issue. So I am going to escape and open up my browser. Because I know that the Constitution Annotated online and its essays would be an incredible help to me to find this information, I'm going to navigate to Congress.gov, which you can see here at the top of your screen. We discussed earlier in the presentation that the global search box is at the top of the screen along with the search help button. I'm going to look at the search help button so that we can see it kind of up close. I'm going to also make my screen a little bit bigger here. All right. I'm going to scroll down just a bit. I'm going to use the last one listed here, again, that I mentioned before, the proximity search. Because I'm not sure whether or not the words cruel and unusual punishment are always going to be placed exactly in that order. So I don't want to use an exact phrase search. Instead, I'm going to use a proximity search so that the words cruel and unusual punishment all appear within a certain number of words of each other. So scrolling up to the top of my page, I'm going to type in quotation marks, cruel and unusual punishment. I'm going to put the tilde, and then I'm going to put the number of words I want these words to appear between. So I'm going to type 7. So I want these words to appear within 7 words of each other. Next, I'm going to hit the search button. All right. This search, as you can see, gives me 38 results. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit so you can see it. If I look to the filter menus on the left-hand side of the page, I can tell at a glance that this topic is most discussed in the 8th Amendment to the Constitution, as most of the essays returned come from the 8th Amendment essay collection. So I'm going to limit my search to just the 8th Amendment of the Constitution. And I'm particularly interested in, if we can let it think for just a moment. There's some great essays here. I am particularly interested in essays that deal with the 8th Amendment. Here we go. This first one, Prohibition on the Infliction of Cruel and Unusual Punishments, I think is pretty interesting. If I click on that, I want to also note kind of the breadcrumbs that I talked about earlier at the top of the page. I'm going to click the 8th Amendment breadcrumb and be taken to the 8th Amendment browse page. If I scroll down here, I can see that there actually is a section on cruel and unusual punishments. And I'm pretty interested on this second one, Prohibition on the Infliction of Cruel and Unusual Punishments, Doctrine and Practice. So I'll click on that. You'll see here the language from the 8th Amendment to the Constitution being discussed. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. The language of the essay discussing doctrine and practice follows with usually with my keywords highlighted. In this case, since I browsed to it, they aren't. But if you do see highlights here in green or yellow, that just means it's highlighting your keywords. Note also the links here to the footnotes for the essay. So if I were interested in particularly this discussion of Weems versus United States, I could click this second footnote that you see here. I'm taken down to the bottom of the page where you can actually see the citation at footnote 2. This actually links to the case opinion on the Law Library of Congress website. I'm going to open it in a new tab. All right. So this is the opinion for Weems as it's printed in the United States reports. Going back to the footnote, if I wanted to return to the place in the essay where this footnote appears, all I would have to do is click this caret symbol. But first, I just want to show you, again, these are OCR'd. So if I hit the Control F find or the Option F in an Apple device, I could I'll type in Weems. And you can see every time that your keyword is mentioned. All right, but going back to the page, I'm going to click the caret symbol to take me back to the top of the essay. I'm going to keep scrolling up to the top. And then if I go back to my browse page for the 8th Amendment, I want to note here, you can also use the Control F find search. I'm going to type in cruel and unusual. And you can be taken directly to the essays that are of interest to you with those keywords. All right. So now that we've explored the main features of the Constitution Annotated website, search, essays, and browse, I want to go back to my slides and talk about some other enhancements. All right. Let's take a look at our resources page, the link to which is located at the top right-hand side of the Constitution Annotated page. We'll go through each of these tables that you see on the left-hand side in a moment. But first, I want to talk about the default table when you open the resources page, the table of cases. The table of cases is a comprehensive list of all case law cited in the Constitution Annotated. The links in the second column take you directly to the essay or table that contains that citation. But to talk more about the features that are common to most of the resources here, I actually want to click on the table of Supreme Court decisions overruled by subsequent decisions. And sometimes we call that the table of overruled decisions. Every table is searchable independently of the rest of the content. So for example, in the search this table bar, I've typed in Florida, and the table has been filtered instantaneously. The table now only shows the rows that contain the word Florida, and you can see Florida is highlighted in the table as well. You can also filter the tables by date range. So if I were only interested in the overruled decisions from 2016 to 2021, all I would have to do is enter those values into these boxes, and the table would be filtered instantaneously. But first, I want to show you, you can also search resource tables using the global search box at the top of the Constitution Annotated page. So let's use Seminole Tribe of Florida from that second case in the list as an example. So here I've run a global search for the Seminole Tribe of Florida, and I have 1,661 results. That seems like a lot, but don't worry. If you look over to the resources facet on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see that the option for the table of overruled decisions, which we were just looking at, is listed as a resource that contains my search terms. So if I were to click that and go back to our original table, I want to show you a couple other ways that you can sort the order of the table. So first, you can change the sort order by clicking on the up and down arrows within each header. Clicking on the arrows once transforms the double arrows to a single arrow pointing up. This indicates an ascending sort order. And then clicking on it once again transforms it to a single arrow pointing down, indicating a descending sort order. We've already sorted this table by clicking the arrows in the year of overruling decision column twice to get a descending sort order. So you can see here the table is now listed in descending date order based on the year of the overruling decision. Simply hit the Reset Table button to return the table back to its original state. And finally, you can hit the Download this table button if you want to download a CSV file and process this data further. So the CSV file opens up in something like Excel in a spreadsheet. So now that we've discussed table of cases and table of Supreme Court decisions overruled by subsequent decisions, which is a list of Supreme Court case law that's been explicitly overruled by subsequent decisions, let's look at some of the other tables. The table of unconstitutional laws is a list of local, state, and federal laws that have been deemed unconstitutional. There are a number of sort features in this table, but I want to draw particular attention to the description of unconstitutional provisions and the constitutional provision invoked columns. So here's the description of unconstitutional provisions and the constitutional provisions invoked. Both of these can give you a wealth of information about constitutional interpretation. Next, the table of Supreme Court justices is a list of all Supreme Court justices who have served or who are serving on the Supreme Court. Note here that you can filter and sort by Supreme Court start date, term start date. So you can see here the table, we have organized it in descending date order based on the date of each justice's terms on which each justice's terms on the court began. Next, beyond the Constitution Annotated is another way that we feature CRS products and link to the public CRS Reports page on Congress.gov. I mentioned this a little bit earlier in our presentation. Simply click the title of interest to be taken to a CRS report or to a case opinion. So you'll see here, here's the title of the report, and here are links to case opinions. Also, methodologies for the tables is an essay explaining how these above tables were put together. But finally, if you click the last link there that you see on the top right-hand side of the page, U.S. Constitution, you're taken to the original print of the U.S. Constitution without annotations. So note each constitutional provision contains a link to the relevant Browse Annotations page, but the text that you see is from the original print of the U.S. Constitution. If you want to view a specific constitutional provision alone, you can click on a link in the left navigation menu to isolate that provision. So if I were only interested, let's say in Article 1, I could click the Article 1 link here, and those that's the only article that would show up on my page. Returning to the top of the page, we've added the Updates page to the Constitution Annotated online. If you click on the Updates link, which I've put a box around at the top of your screen, you'll see a landing page that lists each new update to the Constitution Annotated online, along with information about when the update was made and a link to the item updated. I want to draw particular attention to the second entry on this list, the Constitution Annotated Supplement 2020. This update reflects cases with constitutional implications from the October 2019 Supreme Court term. To see a detailed list of the cases that were included and which essays were updated, simply click on the link that you see here under the title for the update. And before I end this tour of the Constitution Annotated online, I want to point out the About page. The About page, you can get to that through the link at the top right-hand side of your screen and at the side of every Constitution Annotated online page. Here you can find information about the makeup of the Constitution Annotated online and how to access it. Additionally, all you have to do is scroll down on the About landing page to see an entry about how to cite the Constitution Annotated in Blue Book citation form. For those of you who haven't heard of the Blue Book before, or you non-lawyers out there, the Blue Book is the primary legal citation manual used in the United States. Scrolling down the page, you can see an entry about the serial number hierarchy arrangement of the Constitution Annotated essays. And you'll notice here, there's a pretty thorough description. And then scrolling further down, you can see some more information about how to ask questions. The link here to Ask a Librarian will actually route you to us, the law librarians at the Law Library of Congress. Feel free to send in your questions to us, as we're the public contact point for all the resources you find here on Congress.gov. Our librarians are still responding to Ask a Librarian questions even during the pandemic, so please feel free to use that. I just want to warn you that if you do use our Ask a Law Librarian service, that you give us 5 business days to get back to you. We are having a large influx of questions right now, so we just need a couple days to look through them. Finally, if you want more information about the Library of Congress, the Congressional Research Service, the Law Library of Congress, or any of our additional content related to the Constitution of the United States or other U.S. founding documents, all you have to do is look at the left-hand side of the About page. And you'll notice here, I've clicked the link to About the Library of Congress. You can also click the link, if you'd like, to About the Congressional Research Service, also about the Constitution Annotated. All right, and that brings us to the end of our slides for this presentation. I want to be sure to look at your Q&A questions. So if you haven't submitted a question and you have a question about the Constitution Annotated online, please feel free to submit that using the Q&A button either at the bottom or the top of your screen. If I don't get to your question today, or you have a question later on that you didn't think to ask, please feel free to use our Ask a Librarian service. We are also answering the phone from 8:30 to 5. It's 202-707-5080. Now, if you have any feedback about the website itself, so let's say there's a broken link, or you think that there's a typo maybe in one of the essays, for that kind of technical website feedback, we actually suggest that you fill out our user survey. That you'll see that there's a free text box within the user survey, and you can put there what your technical issue might be, and then our developers can actually look at those comments. But for research assistance, we're more than happy to help you at Ask a Librarian.